Watching the movie The Social Network is simultaneously one of the best and worst things you can do as a CS student, because on one hand it will make you extremely inspired to create your own business, but on the other hand it will make you very disillusional about the actual chances of succeeding with that business. But I also watched the movie, and so the first thing I did after graduation was not search for a job like I should have done, or probably should have done, but instead try to make a Gen AI mental health startup, because I also had studied psychology before my CS degree, so I thought, why not try to combine both and create a mental health AI. So over the next 3 months during the summer, I decided to hack on it. Eventually, I created a Reddit post for it, and what it basically looked like was just a website in which you could chat with a mental health AI, which you could really personalize yourself. I also tried to sell this to actual therapists and get to them and say like, okay, with this way you can support your patients while you are not there. So that was the entire idea. I put a Stripe subscription on it. So I said like, so I thought like, okay, I just have to promote this. This is really revolutionary, and then I will have my own startup and don't have to work a 9-to-5 anymore. But what actually happened was a bit different, because I didn't sell as much subscriptions as I expected, only like 40 to 50 over the entire lifetime. And because the subscriptions were very cheap, I was only making like 50 to 100 euros per month, so nowhere close to not having to work anymore. And also, after talking to a lot of psychologists and doing some more research, I found out that in the EU we have a lot of regulation around all of this medical device regulation, now the AI Act, and basically what I was doing was kind of illegal. So after a while I also decided to shut it down and actually start realizing that I was not really the next Jeff Bezos, but instead had to look for a 9-to-5 job, which I also got after a few months of searching. And to be honest, 9-to-5 is not as bad. It's way more relaxing than actually trying to run a nascent idea of a startup. And I just started working and thought like, okay, the startup stuff is behind me. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not suited for this. But a few months later, I saw this video on the Lex Fridman podcast, and it was an interview with Pieter Levels, who actually created these small startups, which he called, or is called, indie hacking, because he was working by himself, and he was basically creating very simple things that made money. To create these little apps, web apps, he used a extremely simple tech stack of only PHP, HTML, CSS, and jQuery, and also the apps he was making were relatively simple. For example, a AI photo generator, a way to see where digital nomads can stay. I think this is for if you can get a job board for remote jobs. And by doing these relatively simple apps with a relatively simple stack, he was making extreme amounts of money. Like, look at this, like multiple apps doing, some even doing 100K per month. And you also have other indie hackers who are doing the same thing, also earning a lot of money. So I thought like, okay, this guy doesn't really have a extremely technical PhD. He doesn't use an extreme technical stack. So I decided, okay, for the next few months, I'm going to do this. But first, let's search a bit online about what this indie hacking is about. And the thing is, Pieter is basically like the god of indie hacking, I would suppose. And he has a lot of posts about how to do this. So you can read, for example, it. But it basically comes down to you first find a problem. For example, a lot of people have problems with naming their pets, and you even find subreddits that are entirely dedicated of people creating posts to name their pet. So by finding these kind of problems, you try to find a need of people, and then you're going to satisfy this need by basically creating a web app or software as a service. For example, you create a web app called catnamer.ai in which you upload a picture of your cat or your pet, and then an AI model will spit out a name. Then you put a Stripe subscription or Stripe paywall on it. Then the magic happens, and finally you will have a new indie hacked startup gaining hopefully a lot of money per month. Something unique about indie hacking is also like you take kind of a shotgun approach in that you try to release as many of these little startups as possible. For example, even Pieter said that only 4 out of the 70 plus projects he created ever made money. So the goal is basically to release a lot of these little apps as much as you can, and then hope for the best and that some of them actually are making any money. As you've noticed, this is completely different from a normal startup in that first off you work by yourself, not in a team. You also work on many products instead of one. You don't raise outside capital because the things you work on are very simple and cheap to host. And you also don't have to move to San Francisco, but instead you can work on a remote location like Bali or somewhere where the prices are cheap and the weather is nice. So all of this sounded extremely good, so I decided for the next few months I'm going to release as much things as possible and see where it brings me. So my first product was actually CRef, which is a command line tool for AI code reviews, and this was before AI IDs or coding CLI agents existed. So to get a review of your code base or to ask things about it, you basically had to copy it into ChatGPT, and I thought I don't want to do this manually, so let's create a CLI tool which will bundle my code base into a single file I can just paste into ChatGPT. This part was free, but there was also a review command which actually then reviewed your code base and give you things you needed to improve on. So this was the CRef CLI startup. You can still find it online, and it wasn't the success I hoped for. I only sold one. I only had one customer who paid for a few months, so I only gained like 70 euros in total. But one day I noticed like, okay, damn, I'm suddenly getting a lot of subscriptions, and suddenly my MMR spiked up to 500 euros per month. But what was actually happening upon further inspection was that some criminals were testing out credit cards. So what I had to do was cancel all of that manually and refund them to not get into any problems, which of course was a negative. And also I found out that distribution is actually very hard, because I thought I made a coding CLI tool so people will be glad to learn about it, and I started posting it in programming subreddits, command line tool subreddits, and the Golang subreddit because it was created with Go, but I just got downvoted and even blocked from certain subreddits. So promoting your tool is actually extremely hard. But there are of course some positives. I learned how to use Go, which is a very nice language. And this was also the first time I decided to take my GitHub seriously, create a nice profile, and actually release the open source part to GitHub. And I gained some stars on it, which is always motivating. I also learned to work better with Firebase, which basically allows you to deploy your project, which ultimately helps me to ship faster for my next product. And actually my next product, I was thinking for a while, and the thing is, you often have to think a lot about what am I going to build next, and the advice you hear online is always look for your own problems. So my next idea was going to be very original, a tracker in which you could input your daily problems and then have an AI turn them into startup ideas. A problem tracker, so I thought this needs to be a mobile app. I've never released anything on mobile before, so this was also going to be a challenge, but I thought I had the next big idea, so I decided to work on it for the next few months. And after releasing it, I quickly found out that this was also not the success I hoped for. On the lifetime, I only got like 170 downloads, I also only sold like $13 of it. But the positive side is I learned how to release mobile apps. But even though I knew from the start that this was going to be a long ride and that I had to take a shotgun approach, working a full-time job and at the same time releasing a product almost each month was very tiring, and I became kind of burnt out after these two things, especially because if I spent so much time building something and then I decided to promote it on Reddit, I would just get banned or downvoted. So I instead decided to take a little break and instead try to create some YouTube videos, because I was a YouTuber before I made Counter-Strike videos and I really enjoyed doing that. But now my interest has changed to AI and technical stuff. So I thought, why not create some YouTube videos, because this way I could still create some technical side projects and some applications without having to worry about monetization or the promotion of it. But after a few months, I saw that I was asking ChatGPT a lot about my YouTube channel. I would ask it for its opinion about the videos I had uploaded. Also, I was brainstorming about new ideas, but the problem was that ChatGPT didn't have any context of what my YouTube channel was about, so I had to once again paste it in manually. So I thought, why not create a solution for that? And I also saw some people online, a lot of people are asking reviews of their YouTube channel, so I thought, why not combine both of those ideas and create some kind of AI YouTube platform. And this is also what the Vinside thing I created was about, because what it did was after you logged in, it would basically scrape your YouTube channel with the YouTube data APIs. And then this was taken as a context for a AI agent, which could then be used to ask questions or give advice about your YouTube channel. But once again, this was even the worst paying thing I ever did, because no one wanted to pay for this, even though I saw a lot of people asking for reviews on the subreddit. Also, promotion is very hard. Once again, people always say promote on Reddit, but this almost never works. The good part is I really learned how to use Google Cloud with this, because for the YouTube data APIs you have to use Google Cloud. But after all these failures, I started to think more critically about indie hacking, because like online or on X, you see all these people creating very simple apps like image generation, post syncers to multiple apps, video generation, some kind of X platform, I think something similar to what I was trying to do for YouTube for X. But the thing is, if you look online, you see them generating like thousands of revenue, thousands of dollars per month. But everything I was attempting, which was very similar to what these apps are doing, was just failing extremely hard. And it's also because after closer inspection and after living in this world for almost a year, you notice that a lot of the indie hacker community has a lot more similarities to the dropshipping community than actually a community of people creating technical and useful products. Because you will see that, and I also noticed that a lot of indie hacking is basically a scam, I would say, and that there are a lot of fakers going around, and you see on X people saying they have so much revenue, and after you go to their website, it's either broken or very simple or released the previous day, and yet they claim so much revenue. I think that's kind of telling is that there is also, for example, this app Fake It Till You Make It, which was actually created by Mark Liu, which is not a faker, I think, but he created this app to basically fake your Stripe payments and make you seem more successful than you actually are. And this app was actually very successful, which kind of shows you that people are trying to fake their revenue, and the idea behind this, I think, is of course, it's a good promotion, because if you claim to have so much revenue, people will likely check out your app to see what it's all about. So people are trying really hard to promote their app by faking their revenue and basically building their brand as some god tier indie hacker, while in reality their products are barely working and don't make any money at all. And the thing is, this is also the largest part of the indie hacker community, which really distorts the view. But then you also have this 4% of like elite indie hackers, I would say, like Pieter, Mark, and some others who are actually doing some legit revenue. But the thing you should realize is these are like the celebrities of the indie hacker community. They have a lot of followers on X. So what they have is extreme distribution potential, because everything they tweet instantly get promoted to millions of people. And besides that, because people look up to these people and see them having a lot of revenue, people will check out their apps regardless of if it's any good or useful, because of course a lot of people want to emulate what they are doing. So if they release something new, of course you're going to check it out and see what's all about. So the thing I want to say with this is you simply can't replicate what they are doing just because they are releasing something. If you would release the same thing, you would just fail. This is a bit evidenced by that Pieter, who I have a lot of respect for, of course, but this year he released a very simple plane game, which is something you would, I think even in Roblox, you have better games, but it's a web game in which you can fly. But a lot of people were playing it because, of course, it's Pieter who released this. So everyone is trying to check it out, and because so many people are trying to check it out, some sponsors jump in who actually want to sponsor certain things in the game. And after a while, he was doing 50,000 in MMR. Which is a very simple game, which is something you can't replicate or even should look at as something that is realistic for you. And then finally, you have like this 1%, I would say, or even less, of actually useful apps that people are willing to pay for a subscription per month. For example, Miro, which I'm currently using, but it doesn't have to be that complex, because you also have like a calorie tracker, for example. This was a very successful one. And even I think the best thing is like the early Pieter products, because for example this remote OK job board, because they are so simple and they solve a very specific problem, and they actually show that you don't need a complex tech stack to make any money. But these kind of products are like 1%, I would say, of the entire indie hacking space. So of course the question arises, do I regret doing this? And would I recommend you to jump in and also try to create products? And the answer is, I definitely recommend you to do this. And I also don't regret it myself, which is a bit surprising, but let's give you the reasons why. First off, by trying to develop the products from scratch and actually also doing the promotional part, you are becoming extremely well-rounded. You are working both on front end, back end, the AI part, the deployment part, the actual marketing part, the coming up with idea part. And at your regular job, you're only working on a small subset of the complete product life cycle. So by doing this indie hacking, you become extremely well-rounded, and this will make you a way more valuable employee, even if you work like a 9-to-5 job, because you actually know the struggle, how hard it is to come up with some new good idea compared to your colleagues who have never done anything like this before. And you also get good at aspects, even technical aspects, that you would never have touched in your regular job. Also, you learn if you approach this right, you learn a tech stack which allows you to create new products very fast, which of course is very nice to learn how to actually create some products and release them in the real world, because you don't learn this anywhere in college or university. And besides that, I also think like the main ideas behind indie hacking are very good. Like, it's very important to ship fast. Don't spend months thinking about your next product or developing it by yourself. Just release it as fast as possible. Try to release it in 1 month. And what will help you with this is to also get good at a tech stack, which you will also automatically do with indie hacking, even if you don't make any money. It's also good advice. Don't chase any shiny frameworks. People like Pieter are using the bare. They don't use any shiny frameworks and they still out-earn you by 100x. Also, you don't need to make the most complex apps to create any useful apps. And of course, the most important idea is to solve actual problems. Don't try to replicate what you see on X, because most people have more distribution power than you. And for me, am I going to stop? No, even if I didn't make any money yet. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I gave a more realistic view about what indie hacking is all about and why it's much harder than it seems. And I hope I see you in the next video.